You are now listening to two dudes in their 30s with Adam and Greg. They're gonna talk about stuff, and you're gonna listen. Okay, got it. Good. Let's start the show. Hell yeah!
Hey, what's up, man?
Help me if I turn the mic on. I think we've done a couple of these now. Got to turn the mic on.
Yeah, I saw your wife and daughter yesterday.
How do I take that?
I don't think your wife and daughter saw me.
Oh, where were you? Okay, now I really don't know how to take it.
So the other morning, I started 7 o'clock, get in my truck, go to my first job, which was actually right around the corner from your house. I'm on my way there. My truck is making this horrible, horrible noise. So I ended up having to go bring it to the garage. I call my boss. He gets me this other super creepy vehicle, super creepy truck. I didn't even want to stop to say hello to your wife in this thing. It was so.
What was she doing? Was she going for a walk or something?
Yeah, she was walking on the block.
Oh, you should have stopped.
Oh man, it's I was going slow.
She probably would have been freaked out at first, but
yeah,
when
exactly.
she
She gave
recognized
me a weird look. She kind of squinted her eyes, what is this person doing? I'm driving super slow near her.
I'll have to ask her.
Mama Bear was coming out, protecting the baby.
Yeah.
Oh,
how was your week?
It was crazy.
Busy? Yeah.
You?
Good. Busy. Just this whatever is going on with this white stuff, this white fuzzy stuff outside is destroying my life.
Oh yeah, it's
slowly.
Be bad.
I can hear it in my voice. I'm so congested. I don't know what the hell, man. It's killing me.
You ready for this weekend?
Not really.
Big half mile or half marathon.
I wish
up?
it was a half mile. That'd be awesome. I would crush it.
Yeah. I don't even think I could crush a half mile right now.
I ran a did I tell you I ran a 5K last weekend and I finished third? And
yeah,
it was me battling out with a bunch of 14-year-olds at the finish, and I one I couldn't catch, and the other one I stayed in front of. So
that's funny.
I had 20 years on him, but
you were first in your age bracket or whatever, right?
Yeah, in the old man group, I was first. No, it was fun. Nice. So yeah,
congratulations.
This will be Monday, the day after. So hopefully it goes well. I don't know. I'm feeling all right. It's hilly. It's very hilly, Lake Placid, but should be good. So should we get to? We don't need to mess around too much, I don't think, because we talked for a while the other night to Kendra Hennessy, who we grew up with basically in Boston Spa. She's an entrepreneur. She's had a couple businesses, and her main one now, it's kind of funny. I just put a post up on Instagram. It's Mother Like a Boss, it's called. And I'm like, mother talk on a dude podcast? But we're like, yeah. And it was pretty good, I thought. Yeah,
absolutely. It was fun. It was good catching up. You know what I mean? Hearing about her life the last few years and starting up a business, and it seems like she's doing really good for herself. So
yeah, absolutely, and she's passionate about the subject matter, which you'll hear, and I think it comes through in our talk, which is I think obviously critical to running a successful business. And I don't know, we kind of spanned the gamut. We talked about a bunch of different things, and like you said, it was just really good to catch up with her. She has her own podcast, the Mother Like a Boss podcast, so she can talk, which is nice. That makes it a lot easier on us too, that we can just kind of throw out questions to her and she can kind of roll with them. We just had a good chat and catch it up. So let's go there now. Here is two dudes talking to a mom. This is us talking to Kendra Hennessy. Here you go. Hello.
What's going on?
How are you?
How's it going?
I'm good. I'm not going to turn my video on because it's been a rough day here. So I'm going to go without the video.
That's absolutely cool.
I'm going to keep mine off too because we always have like technical issues when I put my video on.
Now I feel weird.
We're just going to stare at you with your very manly beard. That's like a really awesome beard right there.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, now I'm embarrassed and self-conscious. I got to turn this off.
No, keep it on.
Nope, I'm gone.
All right. So Kendra, when we were going back and forth on this, we were telling you about all these technical issues that we were having with recording. So do me a favor, record on your end too, will you please? That way we'll have 3 of us recording.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
All right, hold on a second. Let me get my call recorder up.
I'm kidding.
What's funny is that I have a call recorder right here because I use Skype for I use a program called Ecamm to do live videos on Facebook, and you have to have a call recorder for it. So I have the call recorder right here.
I use the Ecamm call recorder on my end too, but every once in a while it just like gives me issues. One time we did one when I recorded the whole thing, and then it like kicked me out right at the very end. It wouldn't let me save, and we lost the whole thing. So that's fun.
That is the worst. I've been there. I've had to re-record whole interviews because, like I said, it like recorded all of the audio on top of each other.
Oh my God. We've had the same thing multiple times.
Yeah. So another.
It's the worst.
Another time when a couple episodes ago, for some reason, like when the mix came over, Adam was super loud, and I had to like drag all his sections into a new track, individually to try to like level it out a little bit. It's just, and I don't know what I'm doing either, so that doesn't help. But
yeah, that's my problem too, is that I have like just enough knowledge to get me by, just enough to like edit my own podcasts and stuff like that, but not enough where when I wrote to Zencaster, who was the one that I did the recording through, I was like, yeah, it's like on top of each other. And they were like, oh, that's a simple fix. You're just going to take the audios apart and then you're going to just like level them out individually. I was like, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. I was like, I literally know how to hit record and then I know how to like drag it into GarageBand.
Yeah, we're doing the same exact thing then.
Ends.
That's it.
Oh, that's it.
Yeah. We're literally doing the same thing then. Yeah. When we interviewed Sawyer Fredericks like a couple weeks ago, and we finally figured out how to. I bought a mixer. We finally figured out how to like use it, get it all into GarageBand, make sure that it was all working. It all sounded great. We recorded the whole interview. I went to hit save at the end, and I got some random like error code, like error 34 or something. So then I like hit save a couple times, and then luckily Adam had his laptop set up and as like a backup, and so we're able to at least grab the audio from there because it just didn't save. It just didn't save. It was there in GarageBand. The waves were there. It all was like looking fine, and it just wouldn't play. So
yeah, it's great fun.
Yeah,
it's technology.
Like Office Space. You just want to smash like the copy machine.
I'm just like, God damn it! Like,
oh, for sure. I have I've spent an entire day creating something like a graphic of some kind, like a PDF, and then I'll get to the end and it'll just go away. Like, how does it just vanish into thin air? It was just here like the whole day. I've cried before. I just sat there and cried, and my husband is like, what's the matter? I was like, please don't talk to me. Just leave me alone. I don't want to talk to anybody. Like, I hate technology, and I also love it because it's made me money. So I can't hate it that much, but yeah.
At the beginning of this thing, like when we were first starting to try to figure it out, and I was trying to figure out the edits and how to like put the music in, and even just like do something simple as like fade in or fade out or clip the end off, like, Command T. I'm like, how do I do this? And it just took me hours to try to even like put any of the stuff together, but it's getting a little bit easier, I guess.
I made my entire family listen to my podcast intro because that's how proud I was of myself.
It was really good, actually. Your audio sounds good.
Thanks. I literally made my whole family come into the office, and my daughter, who's 11, was completely unimpressed. Did not care, like no care whatsoever. I was like, when we listen to like podcasts, and there's like the intro. Look what I did, and she was like, okay, I don't care. Like, listen, this took me all day. All right, so you be proud of me.
You've done it all on your own. Then you didn't have anybody outside help you at all with any editing or recording or anything.
No, I've done all of the editing and all
great.
of the stuff. Yeah. I think it's I I learned a lot from other people. So I like asked a lot of questions. And because I'm in the online space, I just have a lot of people that have done it and just sort of showed me how to do it or told me how to do it. And then I just figured I would try it. And if it was really, really horrible, then I would hire somebody. But it turned out okay. And you know, my audience is also moms, and some of them guys don't even know what podcasts are. Like they don't even understand the concept of podcasts. So they're just happy there's audio. Like they don't even care about the extra stuff. So it's fine.
That's good. I know it's funny. You go from that to like the people that are like, oh, you need to do this, and this, and this with the audio in order for me to listen. You're like, oh, you might want to check another show out.
Right. It's like, seriously, you know, this stuff costs money and time, right? Like,
yeah, there's no way. I mean, this is like a hobby for Adam and I, like a very
for sure.
minimal hobby.
Exactly.
So.
We're literally like on the seat of our pants every episode. So
right.
we have no idea what we're doing.
That's fine. That's the best kind. That's why it's fun. That's why I like listening to it. It's a good time. It's fun.
You are the very first solo female guest, so
that's very exciting.
Yes.
Because I was going to say that I have been interviewed for close to 50 podcasts now, and you are the first dudes who have ever interviewed me before.
Yes.
I've never been interviewed by men before, ever. So this is very exciting.
Yeah, this is going to be fun. Plus our background here, which isn't checkered, but there is a background. So. So why don't we start and kind of go back to let you give a little bit of your background. Obviously we all grew up together in Balls and Spa, so we knew each other. We've talked a little bit about Balls and Spa on the podcast, but I know that you went to St. Rose?
Yeah, I went to St. Rose. I was in a lot of classes with your sister.
That's what I thought.
Actually. Yeah, we were in a lot of classes together.
And I'm going to want to call you Kendra Gatzendorfer, by the way.
I know, it's really awkward because people say that sometimes, and I get it because now all of our friends that are married that are female, I still call them by their maiden name, even though they're not. But I am so far removed from that last name because I've been married 11 years now that it's so weird for me to hear that. It's like, I can't believe that was my name at one point. So
my wife gets a friend request by someone who thinks it's my sister like once a month.
Yeah, that's got to be funny, man. And the Ashley Carbonell is just living on.
Yes, it is.
It was like whenever I post something on Facebook, which is fairly rare. It's usually like a picture of my kids or something about this podcast. Somebody will see it though, and like if I tag her with the kids or whatever, they'll think that I don't know. I guess they'll think that I had kids with my sister. I don't really know what they think.
Oh God,
it's super creepy and super weird.
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, but she hasn't been Ashley Carbonell for quite some time either. So.
No, exactly. Yeah, people get married and move on.
Very strange.
Speaking about moving on, Greg.
Yeah, nice segue. I like that. Yeah, that was good.
I'm comfortable. I mean, whatever. No, so what did you go to St. Rose for? Because I don't know that it's what you're doing right now.
No, it is not. So my story is very odd, but I went to school for childhood education. So I started off as a math major. I wanted to teach math in high school. And within the first year, I guess it was like my second semester, I was in Calc 3, and it was like a foreign language to me. And I had been really good at math up until then. And it was so foreign to me. And it was so bad that I was like, I don't think I should teach math because this is awful. And I'm never going to get past this. So I quickly went to early childhood education, and I loved that. I love kids. I always have. I'm the oldest of quite a few siblings. So I always just really knew that I wanted to teach in some way or be around kids. But my last semester in school, right before my last semester in school, so it was like December of the semester before I was going to do student teaching. And I just kind of had this like epiphany / meltdown. I don't know what you want to call it, but I was like, I don't want to do this with the rest of my life. I don't want to do this. I went to St. Rose on a partial scholarship too, so I didn't have to pay for a lot of it. I also didn't live on campus. So luckily I hadn't spent as much money as some people did to go to St. Rose, which is a rather pricey institution. So I didn't feel quite as bad about dropping out. And I didn't even view it as dropping out. I just thought just going to like not go to school for a little while, figure out what I want to do, because I just knew I didn't want to teach. I just didn't want to do that. And so At the same time, I knew I had to do something. Like I couldn't just sit around, and I'd always had a job since I was 14. So a friend of mine, like very long story short, a friend of mine had a neighbor that had moved here from like just south of Albany. She had a cleaning business there. She was starting it up here, needed someone to work with her. And I was like, hey, I'm good at cleaning. I've always been a really clean person. I can do that. So I went to work with her and I loved it. I loved the business side of it. I loved learning from her. I loved working with clients. And I don't know, there was something really like I know a lot of people hate cleaning and I get it, but there's something really magical to me about like taking something that's not clean and making it clean and seeing how happy it makes people. And so I dropped out of college and started a cleaning business. Also, in the midst of that, I got pregnant. And so I had dropped out of college. I was pregnant and I started my business. And my now husband and I weren't married. So really awesome life decision, like really good, made all at once. So, but it all worked out in the end. So that's kind of what happened. I ran that business for 10 years until I started the one that I have now. And my cleaning business was very successful. It was even during like the 2008, a lot of the like economic crisis and stuff, my business actually increased during that time because a lot of moms were going back to work. And so they were having to go back to work and they needed someone to kind of like help them out in the house. So it went really well. And then just over 2 years ago, I just kind of got to the point where I was like, I can't scale this. I learned a lot about business over the last 12 years. And so I really threw myself into business knowledge and I wanted a business that I could scale, and cleaning company is not something you can scale. You can grow it. I knew I could grow it. I could get teams of people. I did have teams of people, but that is a lot of management and it's a lot of money to put into it. And it's also a lot of faith to put into people. It's the kind of business that you have to have. The more teams you have, the more insurance you have to have, the more bonding, the more background checks. And I just knew that I couldn't scale it. And I wanted something that I could scale and that I could get myself out of, that I could be on vacation with my kids and still be making money. And so that's kind of where I started the business that I have now, that I've had for the last 2.5 years. That's sort of the short version of it.
So where did your vision for like your website, podcast, online business, where'd that really come from?
Yeah, that's it's kind of interesting because I knew that I wanted to do something online, but I knew I didn't want to be a part of like an MLM or network marketing. Like, no offense to anybody that does that. I just knew that that wasn't me. And so I thought, like, there's no way I can take my knowledge of what I do and like do it online. I can't clean people's houses from my computer. I can't do that. So I'm gonna have to figure out something else. But really a passion of mine was helping moms. So most of my clients were moms. Not all of them, but most of them were, aside from Greg's dad. Mike's like my
shout out to Mike.
I love Mike. He's the best. So I did have some like single male clients, like just like bachelor dudes that were like, yeah, I don't want to clean my house. But most of them were moms. And what kind of happened was that a lot of them were becoming really anxious about me coming over to their house, even though it was supposed to be a stress alleviation for them. It was actually becoming more of an issue because the rest of their house wasn't managed. They had a lot of clutter. They had a lot of extra stuff. Things weren't organized. They didn't have routines in place. They had like horrible time management. And so I thought I really could take this knowledge that I have as a mom and managing our home and mix it with the cleaning and the organization that I've done and sort of just figure out a way to help moms, which has now expanded to helping families, just become more centered in their homes, figure out ways to manage their houses. I really want to get moms to a place where they can be CEOs of their home, delegate, manage to people in their house, manage to people outside their house, get cleaners to come in, things like that. So that's kind of where it came from, was I just wanted to have more of a reach for moms. I know that they're just kind of an underserved part of the population because everything falls on them most of the time.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And you said you had a passion for helping moms. Like, where do you think that comes from?
I think part of that comes from the fact that growing up, I'm super close to my own mom, and my parents got divorced when I was very young. And then I was very lucky to grow up with a fantastic stepfather and a fantastic stepmother. So like I grew up with great families. But my stepfather was in the Navy, so he was gone a lot. And I just saw my mom I just thought my mom could do everything. Like I was like, this woman can do everything and anything. I don't even know when she sleeps. I never saw my mom like nap or like sit down. Like I don't even remember seeing her like lay down or anything. So I just thought like, but I also know then I got older. The point was then I got older and I realized how much struggle there was there that I just didn't see. And so I really wanted to give moms like a glimpse into a life where they didn't have to have struggle as their default mode, where it doesn't just have to be this chaos. And we kind of have like a society now that glorifies busy. Like that's like if somebody asks you like, hey, how you doing, Adam? Oh, busy. Like busy is the new fine. And so moms tend to fall into that a lot because it's just like we just glorify busy. You have to stay busy all the time. And it's just kind of the default mode. So I think my passion comes from just seeing a mom that did so much, but I know struggled a lot on the back end that we just didn't even see. And also being a mom, I just know that even though I don't have a whole lot of guilt around working and being a working mom or anything like that, I know that there are moments that you're always looking at someone else and what they're doing, watching your friends on Facebook, seeing someone post something, and you're just comparing yourselves to them. So I just wanted to create a community where moms didn't have to feel like they had to compare themselves to anybody else, and they could be who they wanted to be and they could get the help that they wanted.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So I've heard you talk a little bit on your podcast about like schedules and habits and routines.
Yeah.
Can you go into a little bit like how important they are to reducing stress in the home?
Yeah, I'm big on schedules. I always have been. Like when I was a kid, I was like that nerd who used to get the planner at the beginning of the year and be like, this is so exciting. And like,
you loved your agenda, your Scotty's agenda.
My agenda. So I just went to the middle school orientation meeting because my daughter's going into middle school next year, which makes me want to barf, by the way. That's like, I don't know how I have a middle schooler, but they were talking about the agendas. And I was like, I loved my agenda. Such a nerd. I just love planning stuff out. That's just my default. Like I love going to that. So when it comes to our house, I'm big on routines because to me, routines create freedom for us. It's the opposite of the way most people think. They're like, oh, I don't want a routine because then like my whole life is planned out. But for me, we plan the routines that we have, and then that allows us to kind of do what we want in the rest of the time. We don't have very strict routines in our house. And I think that's the opposite of what people think. Like every minute of our day isn't scheduled out. In fact, it's the opposite. We just have routines at specific times of the day that I've anchored to different times, like the morning and the evening. And then that way we can be flexible during the day. So like on weekends, we just kind of get our stuff done in the morning, get it all done. And then we can just be, out and about and do stuff the rest of the day. So routines for us kind of keep our house running. It's how we stay on time to everything, even with 2 kids. It's how we stay focused, even though my husband and I both have our own businesses and have for the last 12 years. So it just kind of keeps us on track and allows us the freedom to have flexibility the rest of the time, which is pretty necessary when you have kids, I feel like, because kids throw a wrench in everything. All the time. So
yes, they do.
Yeah.
What's it like with both of you kind of running your own business and being entrepreneurs? I think for some people that would be a little scary, either from a lot of perspectives, from a time perspective, thinking, oh, I run my own business, I'm going to be busy all the time, or from even like an insurance perspective or a security perspective or whatever. Mm-hmm. So what does that look like for you guys?
Yeah, in the beginning, it was like, I became an entrepreneur first. I started the business, obviously, like before we even got married and when I was pregnant with Ava. But then my husband, who was doing like subcontract work for someone, started his own business. He owns a fabrication company. So he does like metal fabrication and custom design and prototype work. So he started his, and that was a really scary time. I think youth helped a lot because we were just really naive. Honestly, it's joking, but not. Like when you're 22 or 23, and then my husband at the time was like 27. Like, I just feel like you don't know that you're supposed to fail. You don't get it. Like, you don't know that like now at 34, I'm like, oh my God, like so many things can go wrong. That's so crazy. Why did we ever do that? But then I was just like, oh, well, if it fails, it fails, whatever. Like, I'll just go get a job. Now it looks a lot easier because we've done it for so long and it's just sort of the way it is. But we've had to learn to navigate things. Like, it's funny you brought up like insurance. We pay a lot more for insurance than I would like to, but we just have to do it. So we've just kind of had to learn along the way. But my business at this point allows me to be home with the kids. I obviously work from home, and I can work remotely. I can work when I'm on vacation. I can work when I'm at a soccer game. I can work wherever I want to. So that's actually a lot more freeing to me, because I know that I can make money on demand. And I don't have to worry about like dollars for hours, which is how the cleaning business was and why I wanted to get away from that. I didn't want to trade dollars for hours anymore.
So how did you kind of make the transition from the cleaning business into what you do now? Like, who were some of the people that inspired you, that you saw online, that you were kind of like, I think I could maybe do something like that, or I have a perspective that may fit in this world, in this niche?
Yeah, there were, I listened to a lot of podcasts. So that's kind of how it got started. Was I just listened to podcasts where people were talking about like passive income. And I was like, okay, this sounds nice, but it also sounded like schemey. Like, I was like, oh, this is a scam. This is like, are you getting people to buy like calling cards or something? Like, I was like, what is the passive income? I
mean, I learned how to like put this podcast up by watching Pat Flynn.
Yes,
so,
Pat Flynn. I was just going to say Pat Flynn.
Or like John Lee
Pat Flynn
Dumas,
was, like,
I guess.
He was my introduction to podcasting.
Yeah.
Like, it was 2015 when I started listening, and he just kind of introduced me to the whole world of like, you can teach people what you know and you can get paid for it. And I was like, oh, okay. So then that kind of set, I feel like podcasts are like a rabbit hole where you start with one person and then you listen to a guest on there, and then you find them on another podcast and you keep going down the line. So that's kind of what happened to me. Then I just started listening to like female entrepreneurs, like the like Biz Women Rock and Biz Chicks and Boss Mom and All Up in Your Lady Business, which now I'm friends with them. Like, it just like kept it like spiraled down.
What was that last one?
The name of their podcast is All Up in Your Lady Business,
okay.
And it's about lady entrepreneurs, although it's obviously tongue in cheek, but yeah, they do not run a gynecological podcast. But they have been asked multiple times, like all the time. They get pitched stuff from doctors and they're like, no, that's not what we do. Yeah.
Anyway.
So that's kind of how I got started. I just watched people online and just watched what they did. And then I also invested in like online courses, to learn how to do it, just to literally learn how to set up a website, how to use email marketing, how to set up a landing page, how to do all of that stuff that now is just like second nature. Like, I can just do it in 5 seconds. But before, I didn't know how to do any of it. So I invested in courses to kind of learn how to do it. And that really helped. And then I just kind of took it one step at a time. It was like just one little thing at a time. Set up a blog, and then just kept going and really like pushed myself out there. Then I was lucky enough that when I started was when the whole like live craze was becoming big. So the Periscope days, like Periscope was really big before Facebook Live kind of killed them in the live aspect. But Periscope, and then Facebook Live came out, and then YouTube Live. And so I was able to utilize those platforms because I'm not afraid to be on live video. So I was able to kind of get ahead of what I would consider my competitors, just because I wasn't afraid of that. I wasn't afraid to get on live. I'm not afraid to talk to people. I wasn't afraid of losing my train of thought or looking stupid. I was like, it's fine, whatever. What's the worst that's going to happen? I talk to moms. Like, I don't get many trolls in my world. I don't get a whole lot of trolls, because just like, who's looking for who's looking to troll mom live videos. Like not a whole lot. So it's okay.
I was actually wondering if there was like a niche market for that, but I guess not. That's okay. That's good though.
Every now and then I'll get like a weird like troll comment, or someone will come on and like be weird. I get a lot of friend requests now from men from foreign countries, but other than that, I don't get a whole lot of trolls.
That's good.
So I listened to I think your most recent podcast and it was talking about the book You Are a Badass.
Yeah.
And you said a quote, "So often we pretend we've made a decision when what we've really done is sign up to try until it gets too difficult." So thinking about that, with your business and starting it up, was there ever kind of a time where you were just like ready to give up? And like, how did you get through that?
Yeah, there was this is so embarrassing now, but back when it was like November of 2016, I think. So I had been working for about a year on this, and I was like, you know what? I'm ready to do my first like program. Like I'm going to do like a boot camp or something like that. And I had the whole thing mapped out. I spent weeks mapping this thing out. I had like lofty goals and like not over the top, but just enough based on like conversion numbers and how many people I had on my list, all this stuff. I had put so much energy into it. I put it out and it was like crickets, like nothing. No one cared. No one wanted it. No one bought it. I was a group program that I wanted to put out, and I had one person buy. Do you know what's worse than 0 people buying a group program, guys? One person buying. Because 0 people, you can just pretend that it never existed.
It never happened.
It never happened. When one person buys, you're like, great, now how do I have a group program with one person? Like, what am I supposed to hire friends to come on the group calls with us? This is so embarrassing.
Oh, man, what did you do?
So what I did was, oh God. So I ended up saying that like instead of the calls, we were gonna do like I was gonna do videos for them, and the woman was like, "Oh no, that works better because I'm a teacher and like I can't make the calls." And I was like, "Oh my God, thank God!" So I just did videos for her, and the night that I got that like the notification that she had paid and she had signed up, I went from like, "Wow, this is great because it's money," to like total just disappointment. And I just wanted to give up. I was like, you know what? Obviously I'm not cut out for this. This is awful. This is horrible. I'm just going to stick with cleaning. I know I'm good at it. I know I can make money. And then what ended up happening really was over the next month, because I only had her, I kind of threw all of my energy into her, and I ended up getting some of the best feedback ever. I ended up taking the questions that she had, the problems that she had, and that was the genesis for the course that I have now that has sold over 1,200 units. So like with that, that's literally what got me to where I am now, because I was able to focus so heavily on her needs that she stood for all the other moms out there that just weren't in that program. So it actually turned out to be the greatest thing ever. But at the moment it was not. It was so embarrassing. It was awful. And then I had people like people know about it. So like, hey, how did your like launch go? And I was like, oh, it was great. It was wonderful. Like, oh, I made like $400 and that's great. Like literally I had spent 5 times as much in the last few months to get stuff up and running, but it was just the fact that it was one person in a group program, and that's just, that doesn't look good. So, yeah.
I think you can kind of get like caught up in your own hype and you being, you know, sort of anybody. Like for us, when we were first starting this thing out, I was like, yeah, we're doing a podcast. And we like announced it and put like the logo out there. And I kind of realized that we didn't really know what we were going to talk about or how to even record it or how to put it up online. And I was like, okay, I guess I got to figure it out now, because kind of said we were going to do it. Like when I was originally going to think about doing a podcast a couple years ago, I only told a few people. I didn't like announce it on social media. So it was okay that I didn't actually do it. But once we decided we were going to do this, it's like, all right, whatever. And I guess at the end of the day, like you said, looking back, you know, maybe that one person was a blessing in disguise. Ultimately.
Oh, for sure. And she'll always have her and the first one-on-one client that I ever took, like they'll always have the most special place in my heart, because they were the people that believed in me when no one else did, obviously, because no one else bought, but like they were also the people that helped me craft what I have now. So I'll always just be so grateful for them and for them taking a chance on me. And, you know, that's really tough to like, especially for a mom to like, you know, just hand over her money to somebody that has seemingly no one else interested in, no other credentials. That really was meaningful to me. And I'm the same way, Greg. Like when I know that I'm probably going to procrastinate on something or drag my feet, I just announce it to my audience. I'm like, hey guys, I'm going to put together this like workshop or program or something, because I have a sizable list now. And I'm like, if I tell them, there's no going back now, I got to do it. So it's the way that I kind of get myself motivated is by telling people, because they will hold you accountable. They will literally email you or send you messages and be like, hey, where's that thing you told me you were going to create? So that's actually been a huge blessing now, is to just tell people before you're ready to do it, because then you kind of have to figure it out.
I think that's like the only way I get anything done. Sorry, Adam, is like just setting a deadline for myself, or having somebody set one for me and just be like, yep, this is going to be it. And I think one of the other things that we kind of talked about a lot too is just kind of getting something out there and doing something and kind of learning from it. Like I've always been sort of a perfectionist and just, you know, never wanted to put anything out unless the sound was perfect and this was that and that was that. And if that was the case, a thing still wouldn't be up instead of being on episode whatever we're on, you know? So I think there's something to it. And I think, you know, I actually read a little Gary Vaynerchuk, which, you know, I think people are hit or miss on him, and it's, you know, he's not everybody's cup of tea, and, you know, I don't know that he's mine either, but he does have some good tips, and one of his things is like, just put it out there, like get it out there, and then learn from it, and then, you know, dust yourself off, take the good and the bad, and like move forward and do the next thing. And so that in itself, that little tip was hugely helpful with just actually starting this thing and having the guts to just like record it, download it, upload it, and call it done, you know?
Yeah, that's why I always think it's so funny when there's people out there who are like super critical, and it's like, what are you doing? Like, are you doing anything? Are you putting yourself out there? It takes a lot to put yourself out there on a podcast or to do a Facebook Live, a lot. And you're putting your name out there and you're putting your voice out there, and people are critical of that. Your voice is too nasally. It's too high. I don't like the way you say these words. Like how horrible of a society do we have where we're literally criticizing those things to a person that has put themselves out there to be criticized by the world? So it's actually made me think twice about the way that I judge other people as well. So I'm actually, I think twice now about the way I talk about celebrities too, because I'm like, I'm not going to judge her like nose, because it's her, like she didn't ask to have that nose. So it's ridiculous. Like we're judging people for these things that they have no control over. So yeah, I think it's really difficult to put yourself out there, and it's once you do, it feels, I don't know, it feels pretty good to do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
With that in mind, like with society, you know, painting the kind of tarnished images and whatnot, but what kind of qualities and characteristics are you trying to teach and instill like to your listeners?
That's a good one. So a lot of, because my audience is moms, a big thing that I talk about a lot is ending perfectionism. That's a huge part, because my belief is that procrastination is almost always driven by perfectionism. It's very rarely laziness. Most of us think that procrastination is just being lazy, like, no, we're just lazy and I don't want to do it. But there's almost always a back end to that. And it's usually a fear of failure, a fear of doing it wrong. What if I can't get it all done? I'm not even going to start. That's where people they don't even start projects. They don't even do anything, because they're like, if I can't do it perfect, I'm not going to do it at all. And moms, you know, when I teach them cleaning or home management, it's the same thing. Most people think that cleaning's just like, well, it's just simple, just like clean. But there's a lot of like baggage that goes along with adulthood, as we all know. And a lot of it goes back to our childhoods, and not, I don't get too like psychological about it, but like if you lived in a house where your mom did everything, and now you're a mom and you feel like you're supposed to do everything except that you don't know how because your mom didn't teach you because she did everything, then it's this vicious cycle of not starting because you feel like you're not as perfect as your mom, even though you don't know how. It's like the horrible cycle. And the other one is to get off the train of martyrdom, which is like a big big, huge issue in the motherhood world. Like, we live in a very martyr-driven mom world where moms are just supposed to be like a hot mess all the time. Mom never gets to shower. Motherhood is awful. Moms never get to take care of themselves. Like, it's just very martyr-driven, and it's kind of the antithesis of what my brand is all about. I'm all about empowerment and empowering yourself to do what you want and take care of yourself, and that you have enough time to shower in the day. you have enough time, you can make the time. And I understand, I have 2 kids. There have been seasons of the life where like it was hard to find the time, but I'm just sort of for getting rid of the martyrdom that goes along with motherhood that we've sort of perpetuated throughout the years. Yeah.
Do you have dads listening?
Yeah. Do have some dads listening. I have some dads that are involved in my courses too. So I'll have like moms that buy and they're like, is it all right if my husband joins the Facebook group too? Because he would really, like it. And I'm like, absolutely. So I do have dads that listen. My husband's pretty involved, and I always involve him in what I'm doing and tell him what I'm doing. And he's going to be on the podcast next week because our anniversary is next week, and we're going to do a Q&A. And he's totally for it. He loves talking about stuff having to do with like dads and how dads are involved and how husbands should be involved in stuff with helping their wives and the mother of their kids and stuff like that. So I do get some dads that listen. Yes.
That's cool.
Do you ever get any crazy emails from husbands or kids? Like, what did you do to our mom? What did you do to my wife?
It's really, really funny. It's really funny you say that, because I've had people tell me that their kids don't like me because I have empowered them to like give their kids chores and taught them how to do it. And I've had a few people say like, yeah, my kids said that they don't like you very much because of that. I have had I've had a couple of situations where some women have come back after they've purchased something and been like, my husband's really mad that I bought this. He doesn't think that I need it. He thinks I should already know how to do this. Like, I get that a lot. I cater to a certain demographic, even if I don't mean to. And some of that demographic, without labeling anyone, some of that demographic is a lot of misogynistic men who are their husbands, who kind of feel like it's their role to just kind of like take care of the house and be the mom and the wife and stay at home and do all the stuff, and they shouldn't need any help with it. So that's also difficult too, is trying to get women over the hurdle of being able to ask for help. So, but I have never gotten like super creepy emails from a husband before, luckily. I'm sure now that I've said that, I will open up my email.
You're going to?
Jerk emailing me saying something. I've gotten the opposite though. I have gotten the opposite. I've gotten people that have said, that have thanked me, like husbands that have thanked me. So that's actually nice. I'd rather have that than the opposite. Although I do know, I have a friend that got an email from a husband that was not happy at all, that she was teaching his wife stuff about like empowerment. I don't know.
Like being a person.
Like being a person, like a human being,
Yeah.
making her own decisions. Yeah, things like that.
Darn.
Exactly.
Did you imagine that would be your target audience when you started, or did you kind of not know?
I kind of imagined that there would be, so when you use the word homemaking in your marketing, the name of my course is Homemakerish You. Like I teach homemaking, but I teach modern homemaking. That's what I'm trying to modernize, is the word. I'm trying to make it less antiquated, less related to the 1950s June Cleaver thing, and more to cultivating a home that feels really good for you, whether you stay at home or whether you're a rockin' CEO business owner. So I knew that when I was using the word homemaking, that it was going to attract a certain kind of person. But I've been very pleasantly surprised with how many people it's attracting that may not normally fall into that category, that are like, normally I kind of hate that word, but since I've learned more from you, it's not as bad anymore. I do get a lot of single moms, and I also have people in my audience that are not moms at all, that are just women that like to, because really all the stuff I talk about can pertain to life in general. It can just pertain to like, running a home. My best friend, Stephanie, who went to school with us as well. Like, she's not married and doesn't have children. And she's like, I learn stuff from you and I purge stuff in my house listening to your stuff. So it can pertain to anyone. It's just mom's to be my nit.
Yeah, that's my dog, by the way. Sorry.
And the dog is happy about that too. So
yes.
That's what that means.
Obviously, our audiences are drastically different. Like, we have a bunch of guys listening to this, I'm expecting. Yes. So, like, what tips and advice would you give to us guys that would just absolutely blow our wives, our girlfriends, away?
Come with the heat. Oh, okay.
Help them. No, I think that when it comes to it, ask literally. If I were like my husband got asked this question once on like a Q&A, and his answer was awesome, and I was like, wow, I didn't even prompt you to say that. He was like, go to your wife and ask her what she needs help with. Don't say, do you need help? Say, what can I do to help you? Because when you say, do I need help? The answer is probably going to be no, but it's going to be no with like a really passive aggressive side. Like, we all know that like women, we try real hard, but we're like, no, I'm fine. Really inside, we're like, there's a million things you could be doing. You should just know.
I've learned like, whenever my wife says I'm fine or it's fine, it's not fine.
It's not fine. It's never fine. Women don't say I'm fine when they're fine ever. So instead just ask, what can I do to help you? What do you need help with right now? And if she says nothing, like, keep pressing. No, I see that you're doing so, like, what can I do to help right now? One of the greatest things I can still remember out of 11 years of marriage is when I was running around Ava's like 4th birthday party. I was just running around trying to get stuff ready for family to come over. And he just came up to me and just said, what can I help you with right now? And it was like the greatest thing ever. Just those simple words. It wasn't like, well, do you need help? Because if he had asked that, I probably would have been like, because in my head, I'm thinking like, of course I need help, you idiot. Like, I obviously need help, but I would have been really passive aggressive. But instead he just said, what can I help with? And I think that goes a long way just with anything in the home, in the relationship. If the kids are being like unruly that day, or even if you don't have kids and she's just doing stuff in the house, like asking what you can do to help goes a really long way.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, different audiences. So we had a drummer or a guitar player from a hardcore band on like 3 weeks ago. So we're spanning the gauntlet of people to talk to for sure.
That's why I love it. That's why I love the podcast, because like I said, I was listening to the family one last week.
Oh yeah,
and that was really good. And yeah, I love the different kind of people. It's very eclectic.
Thank you. So explain to people like the actual business. So how does it work? Like, what's the as much as you care to share, what is the actual model of how it works for you in your business?
Yep. So right now my business makes money. The way that I produce revenue is through the sale of online courses and programs. So I have 2 large ones, and then I have like 3 or 4 small ones. And by large, I mean in the like $150 to $200 range, and then small are like anywhere from $10 to $40. And then they're also larger because they're just meatier and have more content. And then I also have like a large program that I put together with my friend who's also pretty big in this space. Her name is Ali Kazaza, and we put together like a course just for moms, and it's like a deeper, more like group coaching kind of thing. So that's pretty much how I make money. I don't do any one-to-one. I don't do one-to-one coaching or anything like that. So I have things that are considered, like, I don't know how business savvy like your audience is or anything, but like I have evergreen programs, meaning that they're always open. So they're just, you can get them at any time. And then I have open close model as well, where I launch something and then I close the doors to it and then it's closed. So I have both going on kind of simultaneously, which allows me to be producing revenue when I'm not working, and then also do kind of the bigger launches, opening the doors up and running programs in like a live way where everyone comes in at the same time. we go through the curriculum or material, kind of like you would if you took a college course. You go through the material and then it like ends. They always get access to it. They have lifetime access. Again, not like college. So they have like lifetime access, but we run it live. So that's kind of the model as to the way that my business runs. I have 4 people on my team right now. So I have a visibility and PR strategist. I have an ads agency and like an ads manager. And then I have a creative director and I have a COO who works as my business manager and assistant. So those 4 people kind of help me run everything in my business so that I don't have to do everything, because that was slowly creating a lot of burnout and I was done. So I had to get people on my team to help me out.
I think you like at least recognize that you're kind of getting to that place, though. I was kind of thinking like, we were talking about like the freedom and able to sort of have some of that like passive income or doing those different things. But it sounds like you got to the point where it was like, yeah, that sort of, that has shifted into maybe not that for a little while. And so it's time to like maybe get some help and bring some people in. But
yeah, it does. You kind of get to the point where you have to make a decision. It's either like I can stay at this exact level for the rest of the time, or I'm going to have to invest money in order to scale it. Because that's kind of how scaling works. It's exponential. So it's like you have to, if you're not going to invest the money, then you're never going to get to that next level. There's James Wedmore, who has a podcast called Mind Your Business, which is amazing. He always says, what got you here won't get you there. And it's like, that's kind of how I live my business now. Like what got me to this point right here isn't going to get me to the next level. It's not going to get me to 2x this or 10x this or anything like that. So I just have to continually do something different in order to get to the next level.
I was going to actually ask you, like, in terms of growing the brand, like, how have you done that since you started? I mean, you have a pretty significant, like, social media following. Obviously, the podcast seems to be doing really well in terms of downloads. So how do you think you've sort of, beyond adding people, how do you think you've grown the brand to where it's at now?
A lot of visibility. That's been my main, focus, is being in front of as many people as I can and getting in front of as many other people's audiences as I could. So being on podcasts, I started out like just being a guest on someone's Facebook Live in their group with 400 people. And then kind of building up from there. Doing collaborations is also huge, because then you're getting in front of somebody else's audience and you're bringing that person in front of your audience, and you're just kind of like mixing the two together. Those have been really the 2 ways that I think I've grown the most, is being able to be visible, contributing as much content as I can to other people's stuff, and just bringing as much knowledge as I can, and then also collaborating. It's really the way that I've grown. And then from like a very strategic standpoint, ads. I learned how to run ads on Facebook very strategically so that I wasn't throwing money away. And then just recently, within the last 4 months, I hired like an agency to do it for me. So that's a huge way too, because you're literally, Facebook allows you to pay to get in front of anybody you want. Like any niche of person you want from anywhere in the world, you can basically target them with ads. And we all know that, since we've all been on Amazon, looked for something, and then magically it appears in our Facebook feed. So we all know how that works. So I just use that to my advantage now, and I'm the annoying Amazon. Yeah.
So kind of a joke here. Is there a way you could do a podcast on having self-control at Target?
Yeah, that would be, I could do that one if I had any knowledge about the subject, but I don't know how to have self-control at Target. So I think I'd have to get an expert on for that, because
oh my God, I need like somebody I know needs that.
Is it your wife or just
somebody who knows?
somebody like a female that you know, like a person
that might live
like
with
a
you.
male.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a man. I don't know. Men love Target too. My kids, actually, it's not even Target. Like my daughter now, if we go to the mall, which is not very often, because the mall near us is just circling the drain, and it's really sad to be there. So and it's just awful. So when we go, they do the Home Goods there. So like Home Goods is like my mecca. It's beautiful in there. So we'll walk by it, and Ava, who's 11, will be like, "No, Mom, no, you don't need to go in there." I'm like, "Listen, you don't make the money in this house, all right?" So chill out. I'm not dipping into your college fund or anything to buy that lantern that I don't need that's going to sit in the living room. Like, leave me alone. But yeah, it's really hard when everything looks really pretty and shiny and they put lights up and it makes it look nice. So I get it.
Was the podcast always something you were planning to do, or was that like sort of an add-in after the fact? Because it seems to be doing really well, obviously, based on some of the stuff that I see on your personal Facebook in terms of like downloads and whatever. So how is that to me, it seems like it might be something even completely separate, or do you think they're the same audiences? Like, how has that grown and where did that kind of come from?
It's a lot of the same audience. And I think that my downloads are a direct result of the fact that I started the podcast after I already had an audience. So I don't know that it would have been as popular or just the downloads being what they were if I had started it before I had an audience. I think both are viable. I know people that have done it the other way. They built their audience based on their podcast. The podcast I always wanted to do, I just kept putting it off because there was always something else to do and something else to do. And then finally in like November of last year, I was just like, I have to get this up and running. Like, people were asking me about it. And I also got burnt out with blogging. I love to write, but I hate writing on demand. I hated having to write every week, like write a subject. It's just, and there's so much formatting that goes into blogging and there's just a lot. And I thought, I don't want to be forced to do this anymore. So I can talk so much easier than I can write. And I knew I could batch it. Like, I can sit down for 2 hours and batch 4 episodes and just get them done. And I'm also an extrovert, so it's fun to like interview people. So I just always knew I wanted to do it. I think that the popularity of it had to do a lot with the fact that I already had an audience. So I had an audience to kind of give the podcast to when it started. And then because I have a bigger audience, they share it a lot. So then they're sharing it. So I'm just getting more people to share it than if I had, if I had started when I had 200 people on my email list, then it's going to be different than having, 19,000 people on an email list. You're exponentially growing the amount of people who are like sharing stuff.
Right.
And it's always funny because I'm very proud of my numbers and they're awesome. But my friend that I mentioned, Allie, she's a business partner of mine as well, obviously, but she went viral like 2 years ago. So she had a article that she wrote that just went viral out of nowhere, and like GMA picked it up and did Today Show and all that stuff. So she kind of grew really quick. So her podcast, like in the same amount of time that I had 100,000 downloads, she's had close to 1 million.
Whoa.
I'm like,
that's wild though.
Is crazy.
I mean, that can be like a legitimate moneymaker for her at this point, right? I mean, with ads
it's a huge,
and everything else.
It's a huge money. Yeah, it's huge, and it's her main content source, which is what it is with mine. It's basically my just content source. It's just the way that I give content to my audience for free versus blogging, which is the alternative in my sphere. It's the alternative to blogging, which I just don't want to do because I just don't want to sit and write on demand. So
it's more fun just to like get on the mic and talk to somebody than to try to like
it is.
formulate all this stuff. Like, I love like the true crime like podcasts and all these other things, but I can't imagine sitting down and like writing the script and then reading it. I just can't imagine doing that.
No, it's so much easier to just, I don't know. I'm the same way. Like, I can write out an outline really quick for 4 episodes, and I can just sit down and record them quickly and then get them done, edit them, and then they're done. But sitting down and trying to blog, and it's a pain.
Writing's fun when it's done, I feel like, all the time. It's not fun while you're doing it, like, ever.
No, writing's fun when it's done. That's a really great quote.
Like, I wrote for like a couple years for a couple soccer websites on the side, and like I thought it was going to be like my dream job. Like, maybe one day I'd write for ESPN and I get to interview all these athletes, and I like didn't like it that much. And I got to do some cool stuff. Like, I got to cover games and interview like guys that played in the World Cup and all the stuff that I thought was like my dream. And when I was doing it, I was like, this is just tough. Like, just hitting the deadlines and coming up with the ideas and not trying to just keep repeating yourself in every single story you write. I mean, it's just tricky. It's easier just to kind of do it off the top of your head and have the conversation. I have always found.
Yeah, and I've thought about that with writing a book, because I've been asked about writing a book, and I've been approached about like writing a book, and I'm like, that sounds really good, but then I'd be on deadlines and like, the thought of writing just a whole book of content is like that's like writing blogs time 100. Like, do I really want to sit down and do that? So yeah, I think I'd just rather podcast.
I mean, for the right advance, you know.
Oh, listen, for the right money, I'll sit and write all day long. I mean, if someone's going to pay me a really sweet advance for something, then I'll just sit in my office all day long and write. But if I'm not getting paid in advance, it's really hard to motivate myself to just sit and write a book that maybe someone will buy someday. Maybe the person that bought my boot camp, the one person, maybe she'll buy my book. Yeah.
Things are flying off the shelves.
Oh, yeah. Exactly.
We should wrap soon. Adam, you got anything else, Adam? We should wrap soon. We're getting up close to an hour. We want to let Kendra get to bed or something. It's already 9:30. I'm old, so.
Oh, I know. I told the kids, I was like, okay, so bath time before I get on this podcast, and then you're going to sit and you're going to watch Netflix until Daddy gets home because Daddy's getting home late, and I'm going to bed. So.
My God, that's always me when we record these at night. I'm like, I got to get the bath over with. You got to get to bed. Yeah. Please, no screaming.
No, I know. You have little ones, too. You have, younger ones. Mine are at least old enough that they're not screaming as much, but when they're in the, how old are yours now, Greg?
My son will be 3 August 3rd, and my daughter is 5 months.
Yeah, that's the thick of it. That's
that's crazy.
Literally the thick of mayhem of just I don't know. I had mine 6 years apart, so I cannot even imagine having that a 3-year-old and a newborn or something. That's
it's tricky, but I couldn't do what you did. I feel like I'm in the throes of it, and so going from a 2-year-old to a newborn wasn't crazy because I kind of was like, we got this. We're in the middle of it. We're still changing diapers. We're still feeding. We're still doing all this other stuff. I couldn't imagine having an established person as a 6-year-old who can pretty much do most things to then going back to a newborn again. I don't know that I could handle that gap, but.
It was tough. That was the biggest, the toughest part of it. I thought this will be great because I have a 6-year-old and she's in kindergarten. And then I was like, wait a second, I have a 6-year-old and she's in kindergarten. This is the life. I don't pay for daycare anymore.
Exactly.
Wonderful. No, then it threw me right back into baby. And I was like, oh my God, this is awful. That's why I think about every time people are like, you're going to have a third. I have an 11-year-old and a 5-year-old. My life is set.
Yeah.
Sweet.
I think you're in a good sweet zone now. I mean, my wife goes back to work next Friday, so we're looking at, double mortgage payment essentially now for the next couple of years with daycare and everything else. So
I know that's
kind of crazy.
I look at Everett starting kindergarten in the fall, and we only have 1 day a week. He goes to a preschool that we pay for, and then he has 1 day a week that someone watches him, and I pay for it. And I'm like, oh, in September, nothing, no payments to anything. Everyone's free. Everyone goes to free school at Ballston Spa.
Yes.
Nice.
Ballston Spa taxpayers pay for that.
Yes, exactly. Do you want to ask us anything? My guy, we haven't connected with you in a long time. What do you want to know? You've listened to some of the podcasts. What do you think so far?
So
as an established podcaster,
kind of how, I've listened to the podcast and I kind of know that you wanted to start a podcast and all that, but what was the moment where you guys were like, no, we're going to do this together. We're starting a podcast. We're doing this podcast together. What was that? And how did you decide what you were going to name it, what it was going to be about? I'd love to know that.
Oh man, I got a phone call one day from Greg randomly saying that he's got a business proposition, I think is what he called it.
Yeah.
And I gave him a call back. He's like, hey, I want to start a podcast. You want to do it with me? And it was literally okay. So there was zero thought on my end whatsoever of what I was getting into. I don't even think I listened to a podcast ever in my life.
Yeah.
Before that, so I had no idea what I was getting into or what to expect. But you know what? If your buddy asks you to do something, you do it.
Sure. Yeah.
Well, you were probably the only person I could call that would be like, yeah, sure, I'll do it.
Yeah, this sounds good.
Sounds good.
Yeah, sure. Let's do a podcast.
I mean, you would listen to what, Joe Rogan, maybe on YouTube, Adam.
Yeah, maybe I've heard one or two in my whole life, but
right.
Since then, I've actually been kind of expanding my horizons. I was listening to Mr. Money Mustache today on a podcast, and I was listening to what was the other guy? Can't think of it off the top of my head, but yeah, I listened to 3 or 4 of them today and yesterday, so I'm enjoying them.
So for me, like I'd said I thought a couple years ago about starting one kind of soccer related. It kind of never really went anywhere, but I just I listen to, like, I kind of span all over the place. Listen to sports related podcasts like Bill Simmons. I listen to Mark Maron a lot, who just I don't know if you've listened to any of his stuff.
Yes.
So, and like Joe Rogan, and then like some of the true crime stuff I like, and they just, it's just like a nice thing to do, honestly, in the car, like, or when I'm mowing the lawn or like vacuuming the house. So, and I was like, you know what, I could do that. Like I said, I wrote a little bit before, and I kind of felt like I needed like another creative outlet. And then I'm like, you know what, let's just start when we just kind of talk. And we didn't even really know what the subject was going to be at the beginning. We sort of like put our heads together and started thinking a little bit more about it. And then we decided maybe we'd interview people and just see how that went. And like I said, I like the Mark Maron thing. So it's kind of like, it's a little bit like WTF style, in the sense that we have a little intro, we talk for a few minutes, we do a little musical, kind of like get to the interview, we do the interview, we do a little musical outro, and then we like play a song at the end. But it's like, it's us two guys versus the one, and it's like different kinds of music, and it's certainly different styles of interview and talking to people. But yeah, so we were just like, let's do it. And then the name, I don't even remember the name. I think I just came up with it one day in my head, and I was like, that should be the name.
It's awesome.
And then like the graphic, I like typed in Microsoft Word, and I took a picture of it with my phone. And that's like literally the graphic for the podcast, was a picture from my phone that we then upload. And yeah, like it's been pretty like indie. We've just kind of been like banging it out every week with just the two of us, no real support. We've been reaching out to people like very independently, randomly shooting like Instagram messages or Facebook messages or emails to people that we could try to maybe talk to. We've talked to like some of our friends or people we know like you, and then just other random people who we haven't had no connection to, but we've just like followed on Instagram. Like we've talked to a couple people that are like kind of living like the van life. We've talked to some artists, musicians, and it's just been kind of, I don't know, it's just kind of whoever interests us, we're like, let's try to talk to them and see where that goes. And that's kind of been the impetus so far. So
yeah, I think it's a really great idea. Like I said, I think it's awesome. And it's funny because when you first posted about it, like on Facebook, you just put that you started a podcast. Like it was like, oh, just randomly start a podcast. And you had a picture of it was like Greg and Adam as little kids.
Oh yeah.
And so I get a text message from my best friend, Stephanie Arthur. She sends me a text message. She goes, I literally looked at this picture and I was like, that looks like Adam McGowan when he was a kid. And I go, it is Adam McGowan when he was a kid.
That's funny.
That picture. And she was like, oh my God, that's so weird. I didn't even she didn't read the text. She just like literally saw the picture. And I was like, no, it is. It's their podcast. And she was like, oh, that's so cool. So
that's funny.
Yeah, we've gotten like pretty good feedback from people that we're like friends with and stuff. And the first couple we put out, like when I listen to it back and I'm editing, I'm like, oh God, I can't like stand the sound of my voice. I say too much. I say like too much. I don't know about this, but like everybody we've talked to has been like, this is great. We love listening to it. So keep doing it. I'm like, okay, yeah, we'll just keep kind of going week to week and see what happens. But
yeah, if nothing else, it's a cool opportunity for us to connect, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the biggest thing. Like Adam was living in San Diego at the time, and we, you know, we've been friends since we were like 4 years old. So like literally 30 years. But like all friends that have been like friends for that long, you've kind of gone in and out of like closeness and talking regularly. And especially as you get older and you have kids, and then one person lives, you know, we live across the country from each other. It's kind of like a random text here and there was kind of like where we were at that point. So I'm like, this would be a good way for us to just honestly talk once a week too, as friends. And that's been like the biggest benefit of it. You know, we're not like thinking about this ever as being like anything more than that probably. So wherever it goes, it goes. And, you know, like we said, we're kind of two random people that had no following that started it. And so really the listens have been from the people that we've talked to, has sort of driven some of the downloads, which is totally fine. You know what I mean? And yeah, we're just kind of, like I say, we're just trying to continue to see who we can sort of chat with. And it's more about just having interesting conversations and trying to learn something for an hour on our Tuesday night. So.
Right. Well, I think it's awesome. I think it's great. And it's a great thing to listen to. Last week, I was just listening to it while I was sitting outside and like writing some stuff in my journal, which I do every day. And it's just like, it's a cool podcast, and you don't take this the wrong way. This is going to sound wrong, but like, you're not trying to learn anything. Like, you know, there's the podcast you listen to like, okay, I'm going to learn. Like I listen to business podcasts and it's like, I take notes. I'm like, okay, I'm going to learn something. And then you have ones where you're just like, I just want to listen and then be entertained and enjoy it. enjoy the conversation. That's why I like this podcast, because it's something I can just listen to and like enjoy the conversation and not be like, wait, what did they say? Let me take a note on that. Like, I don't want to.
No, that is
rewind,
that is
I
a
gotta
total
rewind it and
like
write it down.
compliment to me at least. I think it is like a total compliment because we're just trying to like talk and have interesting conversations. It's not trying to be anything else besides that. It's low budge. It's just like put it out there and like make it easy. But just the fact that people listen to it, like that we've gotten like feedback from like obviously you use Libsyn, it looks like too, like you can see where the downloads come from, and like people in like all over the world have downloaded it, whether it's 1 or 2 per country. That is crazy in itself. Like that somebody like listens to us in their ears. It kind of blows my mind. Honestly, it does.
Yeah, it's a really cool thing when you start to put your stuff out there, your voice and your episodes, and you realize like, wow, somebody in like New Zealand was listening to me today, and I don't know who they are at all. I don't know them, and they somehow have listened to me. It's very cool. It's a very good way to make the world even smaller. And like Adam said, just connect to people and hear people's stories. That's the reason my mom loves listening to podcasts. She's like obsessed with podcasts because she loves people's stories. She like loves hearing people's stories. And so that's what's so fun about the interview thing here. Yeah, it's good.
And I think another cool thing is like even people from like high school, like I know people have listened, like I think like, you know, just random people that I've not seen probably since 2002, like literally, have like either reached out on Facebook or I know have listened. We're talking to you now. It's like, I don't know, just being able to kind of still have that connection beyond just like scrolling through your Facebook feed is kind of cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, or just like seeing someone in the supermarket and avoiding them, pretend you don't see them.
We don't live up there anymore, so I don't see anybody anymore, really. But
oh, you're lucky. I saw you at the race, and then I never got to say I like saw you finish.
Oh, did you?
You did he? You finished in like what, like 18 minutes?
No,
like something ridiculous.
20,
how fast did you?
20 something.
Yeah. Okay, well, whatever it was 20 times faster than I would ever finish a race. So I was
That's
like
a tough
sitting
race.
with my son. Because it was ridiculous. Like my daughter runs races, so I'm waiting for her. And I look over and I'm like, I'm pretty sure that's Greg. Like, I think he just finished the race. And then I turned around and you were gone. And I was like, oh, I was going to go say hi to him. It's okay, though, because like I said, I was there for the awards ceremony and they announced your name.
Wrong.
So I was like, oh, he's not here because it was Greg Carbino.
Yes.
So I was like, no, that's not him. It can't be him.
I did not want to do that at all. Like I just didn't. I'd gotten a free entry through work because we were one of the sponsors. And the night before, we went out with a couple other couples, and I didn't get crazy, but I just got home like around midnight, and I ate like way too much at dinner. Like it was one of those like 3 couples ordered a bunch of appetizers, all like be there for 4 hours kind of meals. And then I had to get up and drive like 50 minutes to Boston Spa and run a 5K at like 8:30 in the morning, and I just was like, oh, I don't want to do this. And it was like cold. It wasn't like a super nice day, but I'm glad I did it afterwards. But
yeah, you like just missed the rain. Like it was a really crappy day. And I love that you're just like my brother. That's how my brother runs races. He like ate an entire Sparrow pizza one night and then had to run a race the next morning.
Oh, it was hideous. I had a cheeseburger, like French fries,
so
appetizers, cheese board, calamari. No, oh my God, it was horrible.
It's ridiculous. And then you won in your age group. Like that's what my brother did. He like runs and then he's like, oh, I haven't run in weeks. Oh, I'm gonna be so horrible. And he like wins his age group. I could train for years and like never even, the only way I'm winning in my age group is if I run when I'm 95. Like it's literally the only way I'm going to win a race in my age group. So
it's all
you
good.
Did great.
It was fun. I'm doing a half marathon this coming Sunday. So when this podcast is out, I'll actually have run it already, hopefully, and survived. So,
well, congratulations to future Greg for running the marathon. You're welcome.
So, all right. So let's wrap up. What's next with the business? What's anything like hot coming out right now? And then where can people like find you and get a hold of you to kind of check the business out? Sure.
There's not a whole lot because things are kind of just like running really smoothly right now. But my YouTube, really what we're working on right now is my YouTube channel. So like I said, I have a creative director now. So we do a lot more videos, and my creative director is also my makeup artist. So that we're doing a lot more videos for YouTube and stuff. And so the YouTube channel should be up and running and revamped by August of this year. So to stay in touch, I'm at motherlikeaboss.com, and you can pretty much find me at motherlikeaboss on everything, any social media, Instagram, Facebook. I have a Facebook group, all the places you can find me there.
Thank you, Kendra.
Welcome. Thank you, guys. This is awesome.
Talking and connecting. Thank you so much for your time.
No, you're welcome. Thanks, guys.
All right, that was us talking to Kendra. That was really fun. We hadn't talked to her in a long time. I don't think I've seen her in years on any regular basis. And how old are we now? 16 years? How long have we been out of high school? A long time.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was just good catching up with her, like we said earlier, just getting an opportunity to chat, hear about her business, hear about her passion. I think it really comes through. A lot of great tips there on, kind of starting your own business, and just a lot of great tips for parents, not just moms. Obviously, we talked a little bit about that, but yeah, it was just good catching up.
Yeah, it was also inspiring just to see like the growth that she's had with her podcast and her business.
She's crushing it.
Yeah. You were saying like some numbers. It was unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing the following that she has, and that she's grown pretty organically from the beginning. It gives us some inspiration to kind of keep doing it and kind of see where this goes. So, yeah, she gave you all her social media info at the end. You can definitely check out Kendra's podcast as well. Really good stuff. She, like us, is grinding away, kind of without a lot of outside assistance, but the quality of her podcast is great. She's putting a couple out a week, just really good tips. She's had some interviews, she's had some solo things, and she can do it. She can just get on and talk. She's going to crank out some more videos, she said. She's going to do the YouTube thing, so be sure to check that out as it comes out. And thanks for listening to us again. Anything else?
Nah, you want to check out our social medias? We're on 2dudes30 at pretty much everything, but Instagram's our main one, so check those out. And if you want to contact us, it's 2dudes30@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. Wrapping up another week here, Greg. Good luck on the race this weekend.
Appreciate it. Thanks. Enigmatic Hard Time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
That's a microphone. Want to sing a song?
Uh-huh.
Hurry up. Go ahead.
I will want to go round and down. People want to go up and down, over the town.
Say goodbye.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.